Oh, okay. We'll have to clean up our talk. My goodness. But it's really, it's very sad. I mean, I was a member for 35 years, 40 years, and it's really sad to see what happened.
It is.
And frankly, I don't understand it, but I'm not going to fight it.
Not fighting it might be the worst thing.
Hey.
Hi, Zach.
How you doing, Pete?
Hey, I've got a PowerPoint of the places we've been. I thought I would share it in the background here.
Okay.
Oh, let me back out of that for now. I'll get it running, then I'll share it.
When you say places we've been, what does that mean?
Literally, all the different.
Places you've been, or?
No, these are. Yeah, they're places that the club has, the society, we have been for our fly-ins.
Oh, okay. Here comes somebody.
I guess I can't run it. I got to do it individually.
Yeah, there it goes.
Hey guys, Steve Pratt. How are y'all?
Hey, Steve.
Hey.
That looks like Oshkosh.
No, it's not. It's not.
Huh.
Go ahead, talk among yourselves.
That looked like Basin Harbor that went by.
It was Basin Harbor.
I used to go there a lot.
Here's the OPA.
Oh, yeah. Frederick.
Yep.
Yep.
There's Ron.
Flying W. That was the day we had a near head-on in the traffic pattern.
Oh, that was that day.
And one of Dick was the weekend thing at Gettysburg, where he did something besides fly. Or something besides Comanches.
Oh, yeah. Got in the glider. Nice.
0.6 hours of stick time in that thing.
The old Grove glider.
Yep. Georgetown in November meeting, I think this was.
No snow on the ground.
Not yet. We try to avoid that. The guy with the crew cut is the guy that drives this.
Oh, okay.
And there he is parked amongst the Comanches.
Mm-hmm.
And up close and personal.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know his name?
I can't remember it. I'm sorry.
Is it Jeff
He runs a
Rule?
museum there.
Is he
Oh,
Panchito or is he somebody else?
yeah, Pachico, yes. These guys look a little lonely, but there's actually 7 of them on the other side of the ramp. That's
Look at
the
them.
guy.
Art Buyer and his wife. I recognize them.
And there's the other side of the ramp. I used to go to Martinsville a lot. He opened up his hangar there and really fed us well with pizza and all kinds of stuff. It was a great place for a fly-in.
Didn't they just extend the runway there?
Yeah, I've done a lot of work there.
Yeah.
That's the crew that particular time. Typical airport chairs. This is his hangar. The last time we were there, he was running the 1,000-hour training film for our benefits. And this is the one up at Orange where Bernie got suckered into being tribe chief. Yep. Oh, I got the key. Yep. Harlan is my favorite place. I can't believe it was almost 15 years ago I did my first fly-in there. I think this is from that first one. And they love us being there. They like it very much. This is 2008. Sometimes we only get a few people at a fly-in. In this case, we had 4. But the fuel is cheap at Harlan. So a lot of people, fuel up.
What's fuel cost up there these days?
Last I heard, it was like $4.13.
Okay.
But that was before COVID, so I don't know.
Everything's gonna change.
Yeah. And we ran out of room in the restaurant, so they had a tent outside. They were set up for a wedding, but they let us use it.
Nice. They give you some wedding cake too?
No, they didn't do that far. This is Resnick, Ellenville. There's Ron with his back to us and Malcolm.
Where is it? Point to it. Is it here or here?
And here's a future pilot
just,
at
it doesn't
Ellenville.
look like it just looks like it's worn out. Just put a little lotion on it, you'll be fine.
And we did a fly-in a weekend up at, yeah, I guess it was there one day, I'm sorry, one day up at Owl's Head,
Very, very small. It's right there.
where they have a fantastic museum. We got the hangar for our meeting
You can't see it.
in among the planes in front of the Wright Flyer.
Whenever I do this to get it there.
There you can land at the airport and then taxi across the airport to the museum. Southbridge didn't turn out to be all that great. Everybody showed up at various times. There was somebody got there at 9 o'clock, someone else got there at 11, somebody else got there at 2. But there was a whole bunch of students.
Well, it looks like it was a nice day.
Southbridge is kind of interesting. This is Southbridge Airport. They're in the center of the picture going across. And that tan path is the tornado that came through from Springfield and ended in Southbridge. Went right across the airport and took out about 17 aircraft.
Wow.
I got to back up one on this one. Yeah, there's just the motley crew at Tangier Island. That was one of Dick Kuzat's fly-ins. And this was a cold day in Williamsburg. And there's the wing of my old Comanche with this wonderful paint job flying over Nantucket. And that was a weekend. We've done a couple weekends there. One of the activities was not airplanes. Again, it's Malcolm and his bride, friend, whatever. The Lighthouse Museum on Nantucket. And this is the lighthouse that they moved 300 yards or so away from the cliff so it wouldn't fall into the water. Shoot. Yeah, I keep losing my place here. Oh, there we go. Okay, Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I think this is the one that I arrived flying up from Florida, and it was another cold day. Downtown Lancaster. The airport provided transportation for us. Lock Haven.
Hi all,
Hi.
it's CJ.
Are you coming in by phone?
This is the Piper Homecoming that we were there for. And inside the museum, we got a special tour, talked with a guy that actually had built some of the Comanches. Plymouth, Mass. They have completely rebuilt that terminal.
Hello.
Hi. And we spent a weekend doing the Outer Banks, flying from New Bern, North Carolina, out to the Outer Banks and back. This is first flight. That's the Wright Memorial at Kitty Hawk. And this is the flight path that the Wright brothers took. And here's Cape Hatteras at about 1,500 feet. And Ocracoke Island, we had a terrific meal there. And then we all flew back to New Bern. And that's the whole thing. Some of the places we've been, this whole thing is on the website if you want to look at it. It's a PowerPoint, places that we've been.
That's great. Very nice job.
Yep.
Thank you. It brought back a lot of memories.
Yeah, I like going back myself just to see what I remember.
And now with fuel prices as they are, we can go lots more places.
Yep. Well, quite a few of those places we would go back year after year. Like Parlin, we did 10 of them in a row. We haven't been there in 2 years now.
Part of what's cool about Parlin Field is that it is one of the few airports that declined federal funding, and so they don't have a fence. You just drive up. There's people flying kites. They've got like people with their motorcycles pulled up and a bunch of guys just hanging out. Very old style, kind of nice.
They have an airport day every year, and they invite the town. And part of the weekend is a bombing run where they drop sacks of flour at a target, and the winner is the closest hit. And they also have a run what you got deal. You bring your car and get on the end of the runway and go as fast as you can for basically a quarter-mile timing. And it's, the state police are there to practice their speed trap stuff.
Hey, good evening. Welcome.
Well, we got 19 people here. And a lot of people had their microphones turned off.
They're just making sure they can get in.
Yeah.
Stopping the feedback from everybody.
That was
Yeah.
the first person who learned how to use.
That's cool. Yeah, actually, so a couple of useful things, and we'll go over this again right at the beginning, but the space bar mutes you, and the space bar again should unmute you. And then there's Zoom has a gallery view, because by default, all you can see is the speaker. And if you go to either the top or the bottom of your screen, depending on what you're using, there'll be a little box divided into 9 squares. If you click on that, you'll get into gallery view. And then you'll be able to see almost everybody who's talking. So good evening.
Hello,
Hi, welcome.
welcome.
Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna be coming in by video in a few minutes. But well, good. Everybody been flying?
Yeah, I've been. I'm thinking of going flying tonight. I gotta do my night landings.
Good night for it. How about everybody else?
All depends on how soon I can get out of this meeting, huh?
Nobody's holding a gun to your head. It's just for the benefit of all of us.
Right.
What happened to Zach?
He should be joining before 7:30.
Well, I was talking.
I'm still here. I'm still here.
You disappeared. There you are.
I'm still here. I just,
Oh,
I
thank
went
goodness.
mute. So,
It just doesn't look like him.
Oh, yeah.
Zach,
Yeah.
you might try turning your phone sideways so we get a better view.
Oh,
The
move my video around here, and I can see the world.
Yep.
the short notice on this one and the last one won't be repeated. We were working through a process so that people could join. We had quite a few people who said, we'd really, really like to do this, but we don't want to install the Zoom client, or somebody's got a policy against it. So this way we have a corporate account. You can dial in, you can join via web browser, or you can download the app for the richest experience, but you do have to install something then. It's all free.
Yeah, my sister's having a Zoom tonight with her brother and sister in Chicago.
Awesome.
I guess Thursday night's a Zoom night.
I'm doing mine on Sunday with my family, and it's North Carolina, Seattle, Oakland, and here in Connecticut.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
We have a weekly family Zoom session tomorrow, or is it? Yeah, we moved it from today to Saturday.
Oh. Hello.
Hey.
Where's Patricia? Where's Patricia?
Up.
All righty.
You're on twice, CJ.
I'm about to be off.
Is that Dave Gittleman over there in the corner, the guy with the who organized
That'd be me.
fuel caps a couple years ago?
He's banished to his hangar.
That's right.
Mr. Gittleman, I'm CJ, and I was so excited when Ron said that you had come back. I've been wanting to talk with you for ages. Thank you for being here.
Oh, we met last year at Sun and Fun.
We did, yep. But then Ron and I talked the other day, and he said that you had contacted him, and we're definitely back. And so I'm thrilled because although we met at Sun and Fun, I have a million Northeast questions to ask you.
Okay. Well, I hope I can add something worthwhile.
Should be fun. We may rope you into doing one of these. You're apparently a count of.
You ever get that extra dollar?
Our birds awesome. Say again?
You ever get that extra $1 I sent you, Dave, for those caps?
I think I did. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Frank, nice to see you. Hey, Steve.
Good to be here.
Did you guys get hold of Brother Matt?
Matt Kirk? No, I don't think he's coming.
Oh, in.
I don't know.
Matt, I actually should probably text him because we were trying to make sure we had a really solid process before we sent out the invite. We had a test flight, then we had another test flight. And so Matt doesn't check stuff as often, but I'll send him a text right now. He's going to be doing one of these with Hans Newbert. We haven't put it into a date yet, so it's not on the schedule. But the ComancheTown sessions are coming over, and the Northeast Tribe fly-in educational seminars are coming over. So,
yeah, you guys might like to know that they just recently, like last couple of days, have added a section to the fly-in schedule page on the website. So at the top is the fly-ins, and the bottom is another table with all the workshops. We also are using Zoom to record the workshops, and those recordings will be available through that right there with a link. So there's a lot of stuff going on.
I noticed, Pete, that you're doing the recording today. So you will get the when you quit the session, it will tell you that it's converting the recording.
Oh, really? Okay. I didn't realize I was recording, but that's okay. I see it. I see that it is.
That's
Bernie,
what
we're still counting on you, Bernie, to do the recording because I think you can both record.
No, because
it will take a while for that recording to convert with this length of a meeting. I'll let you know.
It's an extra 20 or 30 minutes. By the way, I just have to say, Dave Byers, that is a totally classy backdrop. We like it. Total thumbs up to Dave Byers.
Better than the last one, right?
Hey, I'm on. Me too.
Well, I'm glad to see somebody else has a hanger.
Yeah.
Oh, mine's just a little hanger.
As everybody, yeah, that's right. Actually, David, you're in your hanger too.
Yes,
Perfect.
correct.
Awesome.
I had to go here because otherwise this would have interfered with my wife's enjoyment of the television.
Yeah, I don't have a hanger to go in, so I'm at the FBO.
Are you, Pete? That's great. I love it. Have people been spending more time in their hangars lately just because of the lockdown?
I got to hang out somewhere.
Sure.
I have. Everybody wants their airplanes fixed.
You see, Leah and Scott are not in their hangar.
No, we're not in our hangar, but we wish we were.
Good answer. Hey, welcome.
Hey, CJ, this is Marty Henson. I just texted Matt Kirk, and he said that Negatron, sorry, tomorrow daytime would be much better.
Yep, all good.
All right.
We didn't give him a ton of notice, and we are going to be trying to do 2 of these, and we'll be sending out a survey to find out like the best days for everybody so that we can pick a secondary time that's convenient for as many as possible.
Copy that. Yeah, short notice on the Delphi forum.
Well,
very.
Look at it. We're recording this, so you can look at it later and get the benefit.
I'm wondering if we should not record the pre-meeting now that I think about it, or we're just gonna have to tell people to zoom forward to 25 minutes, and that's when the prezo starts.
Well, Dave Gittleman and I had to stop talking about what we were talking about when the recording started. It was too incriminating.
Okay, with that teaser, you now have to resume that conversation,
Hey, there's Pat Kiefer.
Hey, Dave.
Yay!
How are you?
I'm good.
Hey,
How are
Pat.
you?
Welcome.
Thank you. And how do you pronounce your name?
CJ?
Oh, I thought it was Leah.
Oh, gotcha. Nope. Is there a Leia in here now? Let's see
Yes.
who's here. Cool.
Yeah, I'm here. My name's Leah.
Oh, welcome. Thanks for being
Everybody's
here.
got their airplane, so wait, I brought mine.
That is great.
Why'd you go backwards? Big headwind today.
Hey,
Oh.
Patricia, Patricia,
Headwind.
you think we should,
Yes.
you think we should get Mary Jane in on the program?
Pardon me?
You think we should get Mary Jane on this program?
Marion Jane?
Law, Mary Jane Law.
Is Mary Jane Law there?
No, she's just down the road from me, about 5 miles.
Oh, she would be a hit.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know whether she could, I can give her a quick call on the phone.
Let's do it. And she can dial in by conference call if she doesn't want to jump in on the video link and be part of it. But yeah, are you guys thinking about future seminars? Because we're taking notes and we'll add them to the list and arrange them.
What's the pay?
As usual.
The satisfaction of keeping these amazing birds flying.
The same,
longer,
the same pay as Tribe Chief?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
twice.
Only we're going to try to keep you from getting shot at. So it's all good fun.
Yeah.
Welcome, by the way.
So I wonder if everybody, I just think we should introduce ourselves and maybe what plane we fly. What do you think?
That's a great idea.
Maybe I'll start since I posed the question. So I'm Chris. Hi, everybody. I'm from California. So I'm still at work. And you can sort of see behind me, that's my 68 260B. And
You bought that? Who'd you buy that from?
Bob Fox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mary Jane.
Wow.
So on Monday I had a 59 250,
Jane?
which I sold, and now I'm down to one Comanche. So
Yeah, that's
he's the
good.
one.
Hey, I'm talking to Patricia Jane.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
When you introduce yourself, say your last name also.
Hello.
Chris Burnley.
Cool. Welcome.
Talking to you. We're on a Zoom call with a bunch of Comanche
Hey,
people.
Ken, can you mute?
No. Ken Rivard, PA 24 260B, Merritt Island. Anyways, I'm trying to get a hold of Mary Jane.
Yeah, well, mute your your microphone.
Mute your mic, Ken.
All right, I'm Dave Gittleman. Behind me is my Comanche. It's a 180, and I've owned it for 51 years.
Whoa.
Wow. Gloria's on, by the way, but I'm not Zooming. I'm just listening.
No?
Okay.
Awesome. Well, Gloria, say your last name too, so everybody knows it's the Gloria.
Oh, it's Gloria Smith, and sometimes Gloria Smith Zawoski.
Gloria Smith is easier.
Yes.
I guess I'm
I know.
I'm gonna go sit outside.
Super psyched you made it. Gloria, if you hadn't pushed me, we wouldn't necessarily have had the conference calling. So this is awesome because you were not the only one that wanted it.
I know. Next week I'll be Zoom like efficient.
You'll have to do your hair. You realize that?
Oh, yeah, I have to do the roots. So is everyone sitting in front of their airplanes? I wish I could see that.
I know. Not everybody, but some of them. I'm sitting here with a cat climbing on me. I'm CJ Stump. I'm Bernie Stump's daughter. And in addition to flying Dad's Comanche, I'm caretaking a 180, and I love it. 7654 Pop for a Marine who's stationed overseas. It's Sean County.
I'm Pete Morris. I got two Comanches, actually, I hang on to now. My old one is sitting down there on the ramp waiting for the insurance company to collect it. And my new one is also down on the ramp, and I love it. Got a 250. With the old one's a 60, and this is a 63.
And from Rochester, New York area. I have a 66B Twin Comanche.
Not an important one.
I'm Tim Wagner, 758 Papa, Salem, Ohio. APIA, take care of my own airplane. Been flying 46 years.
Whoa. Wow.
Owned the Comanche for 16 of those.
Welcome aboard.
Craig Hammond from Lawton, Florida, flying a 1960 250 Comanche, and I've had it since 2003. Thank you very much.
Super cool.
Hi, I'm Pat Kiefer. I have a PA-39 Twin Comanche, and it's been in our family since it was new, so it turned 50 on February 16th, and I've been flying either as passenger or PIC for 49 years.
Whoa.
Who was that? I'm sorry, I missed who that was.
Pat Kiefer.
Oh, hi.
Hey,
Another
Gloria.
year,
Hi.
another year, Pat, and you'll get the right Master Pilot Award.
If I make it that far.
Yeah, you'll make it.
You will.
Well,
And
you
we'll
know,
all
Dave, I
nominate
have you
you.
for inspiration, and I have
phone's
Al
messed
Powers
up.
for inspiration.
Have you heard of this program called Zoom? It's just, have you heard of Skype? Well, Zoom is the same as Skype.
Only difference.
And there's a Comanche Zoom thing going on right now. And one of the people that you probably know is Pat Kiefer. She just checked in.
Yeah, it was great to hear from her.
Remember? Yeah. Well, there's about 15 Comanche people here. And I didn't know if you ever been in on Zoom or you're interested in it. It's going to be on for about an hour.
There's 30 of us here.
So anyways, it's just something that they come up with. It. They decided yesterday to do this Zoom thing. So, but you go to your search engine on your computer and put zoom.com. You will then be able to make up a sign in, get your own account, get a password. When you get that, when these people have these Zoom
It
sessions,
is possible for the person running this meeting to mute everyone so that there's no feedback.
Okay, I'm going to mute everybody now.
Yeah, please do.
Zoom,
Okay, done.
Zoom account.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Well, introduce myself. I'm Tom Langland. I've had my twin Comanche for about 10 years. I'm all
You get muted on us, Tom.
My sister started doing this about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure where we got cut off, but
so I just, I know you knew Pat Kiefer.
Hey, Ken Rivard, you're gonna have to mute your thing.
What's the matter?
I think you might be able to only mute.
We need you to mute your microphone.
Well, I'm not far enough away yet. Okay.
No.
Just
We're listening to. Yeah. There you go.
all right. I'm not sure where we got cut off, but I'm Tom Langland. I have a Turbo Twin Comanche for about a little over 10 years now, and I also own Ray J Turbo Products and Bob Fields Aero Accessories. So thanks for putting all this on, and it's impressive how everyone's joined in such short notice. That's pretty powerful social media results.
Well, it's just about time for Zach to do his thing. Any last words from anybody?
Oh, just want to say hello, everyone. Hans Pittner.
Hi.
Hey, Hans, you made it.
Hello, Hans.
Hi.
Okay, I'm going to mute everybody, and then Hans, Zach will take over.
Zach Grant coming to you from wonderful sunny Indianapolis, Indiana this afternoon. I am going to apologize, being that, I haven't touched an airplane at work since the 23rd of March due to all of this fun and games that we're having with the, whatever you want to call it, coronavirus, Wuhan flu, but Anyway, I have found myself to be even busier than usual, which is very difficult for me to do. And a couple of days ago, got tapped to do this. So we'll see how it goes. I really didn't have a whole lot of time to do much, get a PowerPoint put up so that you guys can see. So I'm just going to try and read some stuff off the other screen as my notes, and we'll see how it goes. But the big thing that I want to talk about tonight is we all fly vintage airplanes. And as we all know, you don't pick the phone up and call Piper Aircraft for everything that we may have on our airplanes. It's not like you bought a brand new Lexus and you can go down and it's under warranty for the next 3 to 5 years. We have a wonderful availability of parts for the most part. You just have to know where to go to get them. Now, for those things that are not necessarily available, we have a couple of different things that the FAA has allowed us to do to get those parts that we need. One of them is covered in Advisory Circular 2327, which is the material parts substitution for vintage aircraft AC. And it is a rather sizable advisory circular. It's 18 pages long and is something that if you're really interested in taking a look at, it is a good read. And it does talk about the fact that because we have vintage aircraft, if a part is not available from the source with a part number, so to speak, we can replace it with a common part. The interesting thing about Comanches, though, is a lot of the things that are mentioned in that AC are things that are specifically called out in the certification of the Comanche, such as landing lights and batteries and things like that. If you look at our type certificate data sheet, you can't just replace those with a common part, unfortunately, because they are subject to the original certification of the aircraft, right, wrong, or indifferent. And so they need to be replaced with something with one of the other approvals. Now, that brings me to the other ways that you can approve parts for an aircraft. Let me back up a little bit. There are some facts that I want to just kind of throw out there. We aren't unique as Comanche owners. The average age of a GA piston single aircraft right now is 32 years old. Average age. The average age of a piston twin is 27 years old. And if you are a little more well-heeled, the average age of a GA turbine-powered twin is actually 19 years old. So a little bit newer on the turbine equipment, but nonetheless, there's you know, a lot of airplanes that are getting up there in years. So what if you have to make a part? And this is, I'm going to get into the owner-produced parts side of the house. It's interesting because your AMP or your shop, if they're a approved repair station, cannot fabricate a part unless it's part of a repair under Part 43. It's verboten. Under Part 21, however, you as the owner can materially participate in the manufacturing of that part. You hand it to your AMP or your shop and you say, install this as an owner-produced part. And we'll get into how that works, but that is the gist of an owner-produced parts. Now, why would you do this? Well, the aircraft is old or is an orphan. You can't get the part from an approved parts supply. Parts are available, but they might be waiting on a run of, you know, 10 parts and you're the first one and it might be 6 months to a year out. Or let's face it, maybe you can go make the part for a couple $100 and they want a couple $1,000 for it. You know, it doesn't necessarily revolve around price, but if you can make an equivalent part for less money, maybe you're set up to do that. So as we get into what the rules say on manufacturing parts, Part 65 .81 in the FARs is the privileges and limitations section governing mechanics, and Part 145.51 is the privileges and limitations of repair stations. And neither of those parts, as I stated, allow manufacture of parts. They can repair or modify parts, but you cannot fabricate a part. There are 10 ways that an approved part can be made under the FARs. You can have the part PMA approval. You can manufacture it to a TSO. You can have it under a type certificate or a supplemental type certificate. You can have a type certificate with an APIS. You can have bilateral agreement. You can come up with something that is acceptable to the administrator and have it, you know, engineering data and made. Standard parts, such as NAS bolts, things like that. Those are standard parts. And parts produced per STC instructions. And then last but not least, owner-produced parts. Part, you know, 21303B permits an aircraft owner or operator to produce parts for maintaining or altering his own or her own product. An owner-produced part can only be installed in the aircraft, however, if they own or operate that aircraft. If they're the ones that caused it to be made, I can't cause it to be made, and I own my airplane, and I can't go over to your airplane and say, hey, I made this part, here, it's an owner-produced part, you can put it on your airplane. No, I don't operate your airplane, you have to do that. An owner-produced part cannot be produced. I can't make it and have it on the shelf and sell it to you. You have to do something to cause me to make that part, and then you can have the part. Now, this is kind of one of those. How do you do that? How does this all work? And it's a little bit of a gray area, and the legal beagles are always trying to figure out how to define a gray area. They've kind of narrowed it down to 5 ways that you can participate as the owner to have a part made. You don't have to physically, you know, get the tin snips out and start working on it. The 5 ways. The first one is the owner provides the manufacturer with the design or performance data to have the part made. If you've got plans for the part, you take it to the machine shop makes the part, hands you the parts back, you're legal. The owner provides the manufacturer with the materials. You are having bushings made, so you have some pipe stock and you go give it to the machine shop, they make the bushings and you go back to your hangar. That's legal. The owner provides the manufacturer with fabrication processes or assembly methods, okay? That's pretty self-explanatory. Again, if you give them the plans on how to put the stuff together, you're good. The owner provides the manufacturer or does the quality control procedures. So let's say you have something that you know you need, and maybe it's available for a lawnmower, Well, if you determine that it is of like and same quality and same part that would go on your airplane, and yes, Piper did use a lot of automotive parts and a lot of generally available parts down at the local hardware store when they assemble these airplanes. And if you can identify the fact that that part did come from the local hardware store, and you go down to the local hardware store and you find that part, you look at it real close, and you have a quality control procedure that says this is exactly the same part as I took off the airplane, you can put it on the airplane as an owner-produced part. The fifth way is that the owner personally supervises the manufacturing of the part. So you go to the machine shop, you give them a sample part, and you stand there and you watch them make it. It's legal. So the big takeaway on that is that, as I said, the owner does not need to be the sole producer of the part, but they must participate in its manufacture. The part is an owner-produced part, but if you produce the part, is it an FAA approved or airworthy part? And the second question is, can I, as the owner of the aircraft, install the part on my airplane? The answer to the first question is, well, maybe. And this is where the FAA gets a little sticky on owner-produced parts. The owner-produced part must meet all of the requirements of an approved part in order for that to be considered an approved part. So what are the approved part requirements? And you can think of it as a table. The approved part is a tabletop, and there are 4 legs. And if you kick a leg out from under it, the table isn't going to stand upright. So the part has to be properly designed. It has to be properly produced and conform to that design. The part has to be properly documented, and the part has to be able to be maintained for as long as it is in service. So of those 4 things, the properly designed, okay, you can have anybody design it as long as it's properly designed. Properly produced, well, hopefully whoever you have produce it, you took that design to them and they do conform to that design. When you bring that part to the shop, you need to identify it as a owner-produced part. You need to have the proper documentation as the design of it and that it conforms to the part that you are manufacturing. And you need to properly sign it off as I am the owner and I am doing the part. Now, the properly maintained as long as it is in service. That's kind of one of those, okay, if it is the same as the previous part, you should be able to maintain it as per the procedures of the previous part. If it is a disposable part, it really doesn't need to be maintained because when it does need to be maintained, you're going to take it out of service and put a new part in. So now that you've got the owner-produced part, how do you get it put into your airplane? That's the second question that we asked. Well, you as the owner, unless you're an A&P, can't install that on the airplane. Unless it is specifically cited in Part 43 as your preventative maintenance. So you have to present it to an A&P or to a repair station. Now, the whole repair station thing versus A&P, I'm just going to use shop to describe them both. But they are the gatekeepers for what is legal to be put on your airplane. You can go get all of this done and they can still tell you, no, I'm not comfortable putting that on. And that's their certificate and that's up to them. So one of the things that I would tell you before you go out and spend a lot of time and effort and money to make a part is make sure you have a shop that is good with it. So we always, it's just like getting a field approval. Go talk to the FAA first as to whether they're going to approve it before you start modifying your aircraft. So once that happens, they will sign off that they installed the part. And one of the things that the FAA wants to see is in that proper documentation is they want to see some traceability of the part. And if you go get a part out of a salvage yard or something, you at least have to say what the aircraft, the aircraft that it came off of, and if time's unknown, time's unknown. But for an owner-produced part, you don't have an airworthiness tag for it. So ideally, what you would do is in your logbook, you would say manufactured owner-produced part, equivalent to part number such and such, such and such. And then right below it, and then you'd sign that as the owner of the aircraft. And then right below it, the A&P would say installed owner-produced part equivalent to part number such and such, such and such. And then sign that off, and that is the airworthiness sign off for the part and for the aircraft. And from that point on, if all of those four things for airworthiness are complied with, you have yourself an owner-produced part. And the interesting thing that a lot of people also try to do with owner-produced part is they think that it's a great opportunity to improve the part. And unfortunately, one of the stipulations for an equivalent part is that it has to be equal. That means it can't be better and it can't be worse. If you want to modify a part to make it better, then you have to go through different approval process, and that, then get a PMA or some other approval. But as an owner-produced part, strictly an owner-produced part, it has to be of the same material, the same design. It has to be equivalent in every way, form, fit, and function and structure. So those are just some of the do's and the don'ts. If you can use the manufacturer's design, if you can get the plans, that is the best way to go about it. You know exactly what the materials are. If you have a part and you take it in and you have somebody reverse engineer it, you better be sure that the materials are equivalent. If you don't know what the heat treating was on it, you probably ought to go invest in getting some consult from a metallurgy lab of some sort to figure out what exactly it was, and then write your own plans based on that. Let's see. I was going to say something else here, but I think I covered most of my notes. Yeah. Well, I guess the next thing that I really would like to do is just go ahead and take some questions if anybody has any questions on it.
Zach, check the chat, Mark. There's stuff there.
Correct. I'm trying to see this on my phone.
Pete, what we had discussed is that I or one of us would read that, because there's enough people attending by dial-in that that we need to read the question so that people know what he's responding to.
Okay, there's one here from for Zach. If there is time, can we talk about the intersection of 21.9 with FAR 43.3 owner preventive maintenance? I think she means interaction.
Well, can you still see me? Because I think.
Yeah, your camera's off right now.
Yeah. Not sure what just happened.
Okay, video's back. We're seeing the ceiling.
I don't know how I got muted and stopped video.
Hey, you're back.
I'm back. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Well, what exactly, CJ, were you alluding to with the intersection of 21.9 and 43.3?
Well, I was thinking about how 43.3, and this is a little bit of a precursor to the 43.3 clinics that'll be happening, but normally 43.3, according to the letter of interpretation from the FAA, is anything that doesn't require complex assembly or disassembly. And so to some extent, it almost seems as if you could go with relatively minor fixes and just get your thing fixed. And then as long as you were comfortable with the level of assembly or disassembly, which for me is getting my oil filter on, and for you is a whole different level, then in theory, you should be able to, according to the interpretation letters, you should be able to do minor modifications through owner preventative through FAR 21.9 and then go ahead and install them if they're not complex assembly or disassembly, according to the letter of interpretation they did on that. Is that right?
I'm going to excuse me. I'm going to say that I don't think that letter of interpretation is going to be around very long, because the chatter on that is basically, if it's only a suggestion, then you can do anything. And that was the whole basis for that letter of interpretation, that said that the preventative maintenance items in Part 43 were simply suggestions. And so therefore you could do anything under Part 43, essentially, as long as it wasn't a major modification or repair. That has caused a whole lot of consternation amongst the troops. And I would say that you're probably looking at, as soon as the FAA gets around to another interpretation, that they're going to probably come back towards, if it's not said specifically, you can't do it as a non-certified person. Of course, for those people that I'm assuming that everybody's familiar with Part 43 and the preventative maintenance clauses in there that say that you can, replace side windows, you can do aircraft interior, you can do coatings, you can do oil changes, you can change brakes, service brakes, you can do change landing lights. The whole list of tires, yeah, I'm probably
wing patches up to 6 inches.
Well, on fabric aircraft,
yes,
not stress skin aircraft. So
No, but it does include patches on stress skin aircraft. I was kind of amazed.
It does. Where is that?
I'll pull up the list. It had
Yeah.
that list of like 30, but only little ones. They size limited it.
Okay.
I
Well,
think you would be more
I-
likely to be right than me.
Yeah. Anyway, so preventative maintenance is a whole nother can of worms. But the interaction, I guess, going back to your question, the interaction would be if something you manufactured as an owner-produced part fell under the preventative maintenance category, you would be the gatekeeper and being able to put that on. Case in point, our door handles on a lot of Comanches are from a car of said vintage, whether it be a Ford or a Buick or whatever, depending on what year and what part they use. If you go down to the local car parts store and you're able to get a remanufacture or new old stock of that particular door handle, and it is the same as your old door handle, and it functions the same, has the same splines on it, has the same clip to affix it to the shaft. Guess what? You can, under owner produced parts, you just had a quality control moment with that handle, and since it is an interior item, you can then put it on the aircraft and sign it off as, yes, it was an owner produced part that I materially quality controlled, line one, and number two, I installed it in the aircraft as the aircraft owner under preventative maintenance, and you sign it off with your certificate number, and you go fly, and everything is perfectly legal.
Actually,
So that would be a case of a clear-cut case of owner-produced parts and preventative maintenance coming together.
I did exactly that with my old Comanche. I had to replace the door handle because it fell off.
Mm-hmm. It's actually quite common. and you would be surprised how many door handles are vice grips.
Yeah, it took AutoZone about 3 weeks to find it.
Yeah.
What does the logbook entry need to look like?
You just described
well, the logbook entry, you need a documentation for the part. Now it could be separate. It doesn't have to be in the logbook, but if you have a piece of paper or the plans that you use to make the part, that should be attached in the permanent record of the aircraft for that aircraft that you're using the part on. And in the logbook, entry should be by the installing party, the authorized installing party, whether it be in the case of preventative maintenance, the owner, operator of the aircraft, or a properly certificated airframe, power plant, or a mechanic, or a repair station. They then would sign off the installation of that article, and sign their certificate. And I keep losing my AirPod. Sorry.
In my case with the door handle, my mechanic wrote into the log that he installed auto parts number such and such to replace Piper part number such and such on this date, this aircraft.
Yeah. It's it installed owner produced part equivalent to part number blah blah blah. Supplied by the owner. Tack time, date, signature, AMP number.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was all part of the annual, so that was easy. But he listed the part number from AutoZone and the part number from Piper that it replaced.
Yeah. And officially, that would have to be an owner-produced part, or it would have to be, well, there is no, we get into the AC for parts material substitutions, AC 2327. If we get into that, that part would need to have some sort of standard certification. In other words, a mil spec or and some sort of recognized, even a National Highway Transportation certification. But if it's just a pot metal part that somebody die cast, technically there is no certification for it other than you as an owner produced part. So you should probably have signed it off as, I'm supplying this as an owner produced part equivalent to Piper part number, yada, yada, yada. And that handle then becomes an owner produced part equivalent to the Piper part number.
Well, it's a good thing I'm not flying that plane anymore.
Yeah, well, it really doesn't. There's 100 different ways people sign stuff off. Most of the time, it's not right according to the letter of the law. There's always, some stickler that's going to come in and get all antsy about it. But if anybody's ever tried to put an airplane on a 135 certificate, you've probably run into that.
Right. Zach, we've got a stack of questions from the chat window from Leah and Scott.
Let's go for it.
What are some examples of parts that we need to owner produce instead of currently being available to buy? And Zach, before you answer, Leah and Scott, is there anything that you wanted to add to that, or just go Zach?
Well, go ahead.
To add, but we missed the introduction. We're probably the newest people here. We purchased this 250 last year and learned to fly in it. So that's why we're super new to all this.
Well, congratulations. Great to have you here. And I hope you're enjoying your airplane.
She's beautiful.
I guess there's a short answer and a long answer. The short answer is, if you can't get something that you need, that is something that you should look for, either an equivalent part substitution under the vintage advisory circular, or an owner produced part. We are right now having some supply issues with main landing gear strut housings or trunnions. The Australians haven't put any into production yet. Everybody's out of stock, and they're becoming pretty rare at this point, especially for the twins. The heavy airplanes have a tendency to find cracks in the web. We used to have a place in Utah that S&B Industries that would repair that web, but unfortunately the owner died, and that's not an option anymore. So that's probably the only thing on the horizon that is something that owner produced is, it may or may not be legitimate. It's also kind of one of those parts that you want it to be right. Another place that owner produced parts is actively being used right now is in the landing gear transmission area. Matt Kirk has sourced a lot of parts for those, and when you send your transmission into him to have it worked on, he provides paperwork for you to tell him to do things as owner produced parts. And that is a you are materially telling him what to do, so that is legal. And so that's something that is used every day.
Cool. Frank commented that he had an MLG bulkhead reproduced as an owner-produced part. Pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I did have an issue there on both sides, actually. That led to a quite extensive project involving engineers and metallurgists. And I won't go into it here, but I learned a considerable amount. I ended up buying what I understood to be the last bulkhead from Piper for the left side. Nothing was to be found. We had actually torn apart several twins and for looking for salvage parts. They were all cracked. Ended up having one built. Found a guy that builds rocket launchers down at Wallops who was able to take it from scratch and duplicate it. The one question that this all leads me to is I actually had two built because the whole all the money was spent. The money and time went into the engineering and finding the right people to be able to do this. Once they did it, it was cheaper to make more than one part. So I actually have two parts. One of them is in the plane and went in just fine. So thankfully, zero cracks and I'm good to go with two brand new engines. But at this stage of the game, I have an extra part. So what you said earlier on, I have been told a variety of things, like you will always get professional advice on both sides about how to, if somebody needed it, how I could transition it to them as an owner-approved part. Is that a possibility, or is this part just going to sit on
Absolutely, and that's what I'm going to tell you. You know, the legal beagles always are looking at the gray areas, but the gray areas are simple. You can give whoever it is that you are going to make that part for, because you have figured out how to make that part, right? So you give them some piece of paper that describes how to make that part. They sign it, they give it back to you, you hand them the part, and they now have a part with documentation that told you how to make the part, and you're good to go.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep, I'd rather do that without putting my name on it, but other than that, I'll be good.
Well, you don't have to put your name on it at all. You don't have to say who made the part. They're putting their name on the sheet that says make the part as per this.
Gotcha.
Or whatever. And
okay.
that's their command to you, and you could be XYZ machine shop with no, nothing. You have nothing at the end of it. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
And I don't want to jump the queue. This is CJ again, but I want to come back to that conversation at the end because we're developing fab shop expertise that will be able to take these original standard parts and hopefully make more. So Sunny asked, how does this apply to something like avionics? For example, much of it uses RS-232 or D subconnectors. This is easy maintenance if you've done it before. Sunny, did you want to add anything before Zach answers?
The only thing I'll add is that most of those connectors are pretty simple. If you've ever crimped one, they're really easy. Reading how to connect the Garmin stuff is super simple. It's not complex. And so recently, for example, I worked with my A&P to put a JPI 830 into my plane. And by connecting it to my GTN 635, it sends fuel data back and forth, which is great. But adding those pins is super simple to do. I wound up having him do it. But at the end of the day, something like that, is that okay for us to do, or is that beyond?
Well, that is technically not preventative maintenance. That is materially messing with the navigation and communication radios of the aircraft. I know it's gotten a whole lot easier with everything being basically a plug-and-play computer at this point. But that's technically a full-on maintenance function, not a preventative maintenance function. I get what you're saying, and certainly as far as you can do anything as a non-certificated mechanic or as a non-certificated repairman, as long as you do it under the supervision of a mechanic. So, you know, again, it's a gray area. If you have a mechanic that trusts you to do that, you know, you can work under the auspices of the apprentice program, and you can do work. You can do anything that you're comfortable doing as long as you're supervised by a mechanic and that they then sign off the work. Does that make sense?
Thank you for the clarity.
Okay.
Well,
CJ, how do I ask a question?
well, we've been throwing them into the chat window, but why don't you just go for it, Ken, and we'll have you insert into the queue.
Well, you alluded to this guy in Utah with the trunnions. Is anybody familiar, or you know about JT Evans in Orlando? I had a cracked trunnion on one of my customers' airplane, and we got involved in him not doing him anymore. And I went over to Jim and JT Evans, and he had about 6 or 7 of them on the bench. And you get an 8130 with him. So I didn't ask you about twins, but he's got tons of landing gear over there.
Well, if he's doing Piper trunnions of any type, I'm sure he could probably get certified for the PA-24s and the PA-30s.
Well,
So,
he's not repairing them. He's selling them used. You know, he magnafluxes them. They're salvage parts. He cleans them up, salvages them, what do you call it? Magnaflux them, and they're a serviceable part.
Okay.
So that's an outlet that maybe nobody knows about.
Yeah.
For the twin drivers.
You said that's JT Evans?
In Orlando, yeah.
All right.
And there was somebody else who had welded or repaired a trunnion. So there was another place that had competently repaired them than the one in Utah that I just ran across, but I'd have to go back to the conversation and find out whom. Sounds like there's enough interest that we should probably
that's going to be our next you know, if we can get the Australians to make some more of them. They're a PMA part, they're drop-in replacement, but they seem to be having trouble running a lot of them. So I don't know what the deal is.
Is this Utah guy? Did he make the web from thin to very thick?
Yes, he did. Yeah, he put the bigger, the much thicker web in, and the double bead, which you usually cracked right next to it again, but at least it was repaired.
I had some experience with that. I bought my plane, and the trunnion was fixed by the Utah company, and the trunnion broke in another part of the trunnion. What it did was transfer the energy to another part of the trunnion.
That's exactly right. Yep.
So I would recommend either getting a good used part or go for the Australian trunnion if you can get it, although it's really expensive.
Yeah.
Yep.
Could I ask a question about something you said? So I think you mentioned, I think they call it the Colliel interpretation, which is the owner maintenance and what's not covered on the list. And you said that you think that's going to be repealed or the letter revised. And then the second question, which is related to it, is the Mosaic project, which I keep reading about, which is, you know, to treat aircraft of a certain age more as like an experimental type certificate where we can do more of the maintenance, and those things kind of, you know, negate each other, what you're saying. So I'm curious as to what your interpretation of that is.
Well, the Mosaic project, if the Canadians have a thing called owner maintenance, and it precludes the aircraft from being ever used again and for commercial purposes, but you can have the owner maintenance category. And that allows the owner to pretty much do anything. It's much akin to our experimental rules, where if you are the builder of the aircraft, you can act as the repairman for that particular aircraft. And that's going to be what I'm told is that's going to be all in the Part 23 rewrite. And I don't know. There's a lot of speculation, and I really don't want to comment one way or the other on that, because I just don't know, and I don't think anybody really knows how that's all going to come down. As far as the Khalil interpretation letter, there's a considerable amount of pushback from the legal community and from the insurance community and some other places that have a lot of deep pockets and a lot of clout as far as their lobbying skills. The FAA, I don't think, is really comfortable with it either, because to basically say that everybody is, this is just a suggestion, go out and maintain your airplane as you want to and just sign it off and rock on with your bad self. Well, what's the point of having certificated people? And that starts the whole, down snowball effect of, okay, who's really responsible for this airplane? And when it crashes, whose license do we take? And so that's what I'm hearing. Again, until things go one way or the other, but that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. So we've got another question from Patrick Elliott. I'm sorry, did that wrap the question and answer? If so, we've got another one, a good one from Patrick Elliott. Is there a dollar amount, a level of affordability to determine if a part is available? If I could get the part from Piper, but for the cost of a major limb, can I choose to not do that and go owner produced?
You can go owner
Patrick,
produced.
did you want to, go ahead.
Patrick, did you want to add something?
Nope. That's the whole question.
Well, the long and the short of it is, if you can make an owner-produced part for pretty much anything on the airplane, as long as it meets those criteria. Now, if it's something simple, it's going to be a whole lot easier to make it cheaply owner-produced. If you have to go out and re-engineer the wing spar or something like that, you're going to probably have some pushback from whoever's installing it, that they still have to sign on the dotted line of that it is a certified part and that it meets all the certification. And of course, if it's a wing spar, it's a major alteration. So then you got to have an IA inspect it and sign it off with a 337. So, there is no dollar amount, but if you can't get the part for a reasonable amount, and what's reasonable, I don't know what it is. But that's kind of what they say. That affects the availability of the part. If it's not available to you because you can't afford it, there you go.
Makes sense. Pat Elliott, does that answer the question?
Yes, thanks.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So Pat Kiefer had a very helpful comment, which is that once she gets a part number, Google and eBay Motors have been a good source, couple of sources to find parts.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and then we have a mystery poster, iPhone 10 number 2, commented, is there, and this was a great idea, is there a reference library where people can list substitute parts as they are found to fit, accepting that they have to become owner-supplied parts to be allowed? iPhone 10 2, did you want to augment or reveal your identity before Zach answers?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Loud and clear.
Okay, I'm just not used to using Zoom. I use Teams. Sorry, yeah, I'm a Comanche 260B, and I've had a couple of times and I've struggled to find parts. It's lovely coming to the Facebook page and asking the question, and I always get good answers, but I'm just conscious that I get good answers and then it gets lost to the next person, and it'd be useful to be able to do this in a more disciplined way and to collect the data, I guess.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, it is. So the answer is that there's been some cooperation between the heads of Delphi Airworthy Comanche, Kirsten Winters, who obviously has been operating an outstanding forum for a long time, and the Piper Comanche Facebook group, headed by Russ Wright, and the one of the brick and mortar organizations in ComancheTown, to try to find a way to capture some of the really outstanding content that's generated in the forums. So stay tuned, because the idea is so bang on, but both Kirsten and Russ in particular have noted the exact problem that you just raised, which is outstanding content is difficult to find. Delphi requires a paid subscription, or you don't see content after a certain amount of time. And Facebook was never really designed for search. So stay tuned. It's an absolutely bang on question. JRD John Dunning said, suppose somebody wanted to manufacture something crucial like a stabilator horn. What would the QC look like for that? Up to the discretion of the A&P, who you talk into installing it. John, did you want to add anything?
No, that's about it. I mean, I understand that it is technically possible, leaving aside the question of whether I would want to fly it. But you know, I would expect any A&P to push back pretty hard on something like that.
Yes, and absolutely, John. The comfort level of, and that's why I call it the A&P who's installing it the gatekeeper, because you can go, you know, build the whole airplane in your garage and come to me and say, put it together, and okay, I might be comfortable with that, I might not be, and that's where you have to go find out whether whoever is going to install it's going to be comfortable with whatever you built. Now, again, if you go, you know exactly who did the forgings for Piper, and you go and you say, I have the plans and I document it and I give it to those people and they do the casting and the forging and the you know, everything is, you know, same material, same form, same fit, same function. It's even got the same, you know, forging stamp on it that the Piper part has. It's going to cost you more to do that than to buy one from Piper right now. But if the Piper one wasn't available and you needed one and you did it that way, I wouldn't have a problem putting it on your airplane.
Would it also work to hire a DER, for instance?
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. and go to metallurgy. You know, do a metallurgy analysis. You know, you can, if you can get the plans and you have everything written down ahead of time, then you can make it. If you have to reverse engineer it, it's going to take some doing. But you know, yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Great question. Gary Robinson commented that he had an engine baffle owner produced for his 180 last year.
Sure, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Shannon Roddy asks, I still fail to comprehend why finding a 1950 Dodge door handle on AutoZone is any different than finding a landing light that meets and exceeds the specifications, lumens, beam width, current draw, impedance of a GE 4509 bulb. Why is it any different?
Thanks, Shannon. Yeah, we're gonna play this game again, and I'm gonna say the same answer that I've said to you multiple times. The difference is the Dodge door handle isn't listed in the TCDS that says it has to be on the airplane, whereas the GE 4509 light bulbs say that that's the only certified light bulb for the Comanche, the single Comanches. There you go.
Oh, I've got a new one.
Equivalent though.
No, it specifically says GE 4509, and it is specifically listed as a condition of certification. It doesn't. The relief of the AC 2327 does not apply to specific requirements of certification, and that is as listed in the TCDS.
So if I get GE to release an LED bulb with a part number of 4509, then that meets the
Yes,
requirement.
sir. Yes, sir.
It's an arbitrary. It's an arbitrary
paperwork. It is. Yeah, absolutely, but it's paperwork. And unfortunately, they had, the FAA drew the line somewhere, and that is what it is. Technically, you need to have an STC or a PMA on your battery as well. You can't just use a standard part battery, because the only listed batteries for a single Comanche are a Wisconsin Power battery and Bowers something battery. Doesn't list a Gill, it doesn't list a Concorde, it doesn't list a generic, G35 battery. It specifically lists that, and that's something that, people overlook, but it is the letter of the law, the intent of the law. But, it's your airplane, do with it what you want. I'm just the one that's here to tell you, that's the way the rule is.
That's why I'm still flying with GE 4509 bulbs that draw 20 amps of current.
I absolutely, I understand your situation, and I understand a lot of people's situation. The answer is you put a bulb in there that is PMA'd replacement for a GE 4509, and you don't have to worry about it, or STC for a replacement for the particular airframe. Then you don't have to worry about it. Those are other approvals for changing or equivalency, changing the type certificate. A supplemental type certificate changes the type certificate. A PMA provides for equivalency with the certified part that is required by the type certificate. So, such as the PMA Whalen or what's the other? I can't remember the other brand names of the LED bulbs that are PMA'd for direct replacement of a GE 4509. If it's PMA'd for a direct replacement for GE 4509, it is the same per the FAA as a GE 4509 going into the airplane.
So I'm gonna just give everybody a quick time check. The meeting is up until 9, but we know we said until 8:30. I'm starting. Go ahead. So feel free to stay. It's a time check. And Zach, I've got about 4 more questions for you, and there's your time check. So a really good question. Lori asked, is there a list of non-aircraft parts used in the Comanche?
Yeah, that would be Larry. Check the beard. It's just a funny way.
Oh, sorry, Larry. My bad.
It's okay.
Is there a list of non-aircraft parts used in the Comanche? No, there isn't. And the simple fact is that once the manufacturer uses a part off the shelf at the auto parts store and puts it in the airplane, and then it flies away and is blessed by the FAA as airworthy, that part is no longer an automotive part. It is now an aircraft part with an approved part number from the manufacturer on it.
Yeah.
So that is why there isn't a list of automotive parts. Now, you as the owner of the aircraft can determine that that is an automotive part, and you can then do a owner produced part by going down to the auto parts store, getting that part and doing a quality control equivalency of it, and then having it installed in your airplane. That is now went from being a automotive part that you brought once you did the QC on it. Now it is a certified aircraft part because it's owner produced. So in a long way about saying it, you have to determine what is the automotive part and know, you know, there are some things that we all know are door handles, trim cranks, you know, things like that are all automotive parts. So, but no, there isn't a master list.
But we should make one. It's now on the suggestion list.
It kind of depends on the airplane though, because and I emphasize that we're all talking Comanches here. I can go get you 3 different Comanches sequential serial numbers, and they all have different parts on them, but they're all the same part number.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that just gives us some options.
Yeah.
Sam McGill, you actually have just introduced one of the topics we're planning, and we wanted to ask this at the end. So Sam asked, could maybe Comanche owners and pilots form a list of available parts that they might have and that they would like to sell or trade? So Sam, you have just introduced the Comanche swap meet that is going to become a regular augmented part. And you're right on it. We had a couple of people be like, hey, can we say what we've got available and what we might like to sell or trade? So is that what you had in mind?
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, I don't know how to use this thing.
Hey Sam, how you doing?
But yeah, that's it. You know, I've got a lot of firewall forward parts that I've visited with Zach on, and I know there's other Comanche flyers out here that have parts sitting back on their shelves that they've replaced, and some of them in good shape. And you know, we've updated and upgraded and tried to make our machines, you know, the best we can.
Yep.
If we had a list like that we could go refer to, I think it would be great.
Well, I'll tell you what, we've got a database expert and a website person who actually has just been talked about because somebody else, a couple other people said the same thing, Sam. And so I'll tell you what, we'll stick up a link where people can go and say what they want, and then we'll make a spreadsheet available of stuff that's offered and stuff that people want, and see if we can start matching up. And if you want to swap it, then great. If you want to sell it, then great. But first thing we're going to do is get the listing.
I have one concern with that, and that is I've gotten a lot of advice around that owner approved part that says I can do, like what Zach and I were talking about, the you can transfer it, but you can't advertise it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yep.
Just a call.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't know about that. We'll have to get some clarification. I think we'll have to see if a friendly group of just fellow pilots can
One thing about that owner produced part, you can't have it on the shelf, but you can say, hey, I made this for my aircraft. I have sourced and have the plans for it. Would anybody like to have me make another one or do something like that? You can certainly do that.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
and as you're not holding it out and saying, hey, I have this, I made a run of 100 of them and I've got them on the shelf and they're $49.99 a piece. No, you can't do that. But you can say, hey, I made this part. I went to all the trouble to come up with the plans and whatnot. I have it available. If somebody needs this, I know how to do it all, and I can tell you how to, make the owner produce part. At which point, there you go.
Yeah, it's just and I won't belabor the point, but to me it gets sticky. It gets so sticky that I'm looking at risk to myself. Legal risk. If somebody wanted to argue, then now I'm spending money immediately. So
I don't see that.
Okay.
You're still not holding it out.
Okay.
You're still not holding it out. What you are doing is you are saying, hey, I went to the trouble of developing this part and getting it over owner produced part. I will share with anybody how I did that.
That's exactly the limit. That's exactly the limit
Yep.
of what I would say. And
I know how you do that really from that point on. You give them the plans, they sign it, they give it back to you. You're done.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So we
just
need to.
They have given you the plans. You
Got
gave it
it.
to them, but they gave it back to you with their signature on it, so they caused you to do it. That's the legal interpretation.
Okay.
So in putting this list together, we need to provide good guidance on how content gets into and out of the list, sounds like.
And that is one of the reasons why a lot of people have been hesitant to put lists together.
Yep.
As far as putting a list together of, you got parts, sure. You got salvage parts, sure. You got serviceable parts, sure. You got new old stock parts. That's easy. Put that on the list. If somebody has made owner produced parts and knows the sources, whatever, that might be something that, this part, talk to so-and-so, they have sourced whatever. That might be the way to put it on there. But you certainly can't say, for an owner produced strut tube, call Joe Schmo. Because that you can't say, that he has 20 of them on the shelf.
And if you act now.
Yeah.
Right. Let's see. I've got a quick comment from Shannon that baffles are pretty much unobtainium. There is Matt's in conversation with somebody who might be able to help with that. So stay tuned again. But yes, Shannon, you're right. There's a baffle shortage. HPPC comments.
Matt is making them for $1,000 a copy right now.
Yeah, but his backlog is large.
Yes.
And so
but he is making them.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
I think for the pilot side baffle, I would actually pay $1,000 for one.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Unfortunately, so I was in Alaska a couple of years ago, and there's a company there that was making them for 250s, 260s, but not 180s. I need a 180, and it's pretty much I've not been able to find one at all.
And since then they have quit building the 250s because they said that they were just such a pain in the butt.
I saw that also.
Yeah.
There's an ANPIA with a machine shop and a brand new CNC machine that is looking to that loves old airplanes, has a twin Comanche that he's been restoring that's finally both engines running. And so he's hoping to be able to support Matt with that problem, and that conversation is in process. The COVID lockdown is blocking a lot of stuff that looked like it was just about ready to happen. So no guarantees, but stay tuned. Got a funny comment from HPPC, whoever that is, saying, since the twin doesn't specify the 4509, sell the single and buy a twin, smiley face.
Yep. Yeah, that's true.
There you go. And then you can change your own landing lights to LED without anybody having a fit.
Yes.
CJ, can I ask a question of Zach?
By all means. 1 second before I jump you in. And Shannon, yes, let's work together on doing that. are you willing to hold off while I get Tom Lacomb's question in here?
Sure.
Cool deal. So Tom had asked, given the scarcity of parts, if you decided to install an unapproved part in your aircraft and change the plane's designation to air experimental, what limitations does that mean as far as operation of the aircraft?
The only way that you can take in the United States, that you can take a production aircraft and put it in the experimental category is for R&D or for exhibition. And by saying that, you can't, if you put a Comanche in experimental, it would be because you wanted to certify a new engine on it, or certify a new cowling, or certify a new wing, whatever, high lift device. And that's a research and development thing, and it's short term, and then it has to go back and conform with the type certificate and be relisted in the normal category again. For exhibition, if you wanted to modify it in such a way that you were doing air shows with it or something, that would be, you change the controls and you put a stick in it and a center seat, whatever. But those would be two of the categories that it would fall under. You can't take a production aircraft and turn it into a experimental aircraft, amateur built, unless you build 51% of the airplane. So that pretty much excludes putting it in experimental and having any sort of a useful aircraft. Does that answer the question?
And then the person who was just about to who verbally wanted to, I've got one more on the list that came in afterwards. So who was about to ask a question that I asked if I could do Tom's first?
That was me, Dave Gittleman.
Oh, cool, Dave. Over to you, and then I'll bring in Burnley's.
Since Zach has a 180.
Two 180s.
As I do. I have to ask you a question about how many carburetor heat boxes have you replaced or repaired over the years that you've had the airplanes?
I have done, define a repair, complete rebuild or just rebush the shaft?
Complete rebuild.
Complete rebuild. I've done two.
Okay. I want to show you something, and I don't know if you can see it, but I got tired of these things cracking. So let's see. Can you see this?
Yeah.
I welded a piece here along the top, and I also did it here along the back. And this makes the structure about 100 times stronger than the original design.
Oh.
And I have never had to fix one of these after I've done that. And I started doing that 30 years ago. And I keep on waiting for them to break, but they never do. So that's an owner-produced modified part. So I pointed out to anybody who wants to do that.
That's awesome.
As someone who has spent thousands of dollars on carb heat air boxes on his 180, I appreciate that.
Yes.
All right. Well, I just thought I'd show it to you.
The funny thing about that, Dave, is after the second time that I rebuilt it, I did the same thing.
Well, great minds think alike.
So since we're here, Dave and Zach, do you think you could produce just a half-page write-up with photos on your smart change so that all of us 180 drivers can benefit, and we'll post it?
Sure. Well, it also applies to 250s.
Yeah.
I'll take that. I'll take that.
Cool. See, totally worth the cost of admission. But seriously, would you guys, would either one or both of you get together and produce just a quick, like, hey, here's how to fix your carb heat box so you don't have to fix it again in 10 years?
I'll be happy to post it on the website.
A year and a half ago, I was ready to actually physically owner produce a new airbox because it was almost as hard to find as the baffles.
Wow.
It's very difficult to make.
Yes. It's not fun.
No, it's not fun. But I mean, it's possible.
Yeah. Somebody already did that. They made it. Somebody made one out of stainless several years ago when I was still a member of ICS.
I was actually ready to just like buy a mill and just start. I have blocks of aluminum, so I was ready to just start milling aluminum.
Yep.
I don't know that you'd be happy with the result, though. I'm guessing that would
compared to the perennial cracking and rewelding of cracks.
This fix stops that.
Yeah.
I could see making it out of a 7000 series, alloy, but you're wasting a lot out the mill doing it.
Oh, absolutely. But the thing is, I've got about 15 solid blocks of aluminum that are about, I don't know, 6 by 10 by 8. So I could mill 15 of them. And it would be no cost because I have that aluminum sitting in the bin.
Oh, cool. I have, this is CJ again. I have a question that a member texted me saying, I can't be there, but could you ask? And it wasn't necessarily directly owner produced, so I wanted to save it till everybody else's questions have been asked. Let's see, there's a great suggestion from Burnley to create an LLC so that we can publicly own and share this information and with less risk. That's something that we should run by Kirsten Winter, who also, in addition to all of her other attributes, is an attorney. Then I have one from Joe Capercini, who has a 180, and he was asking me to ask you, and this is the last question other than kind of a bookkeeping question. And then we're just going to let anybody talk until 9 o'clock when we're going to wrap it up. The question from Joe was, can Comanche Murray Collette, if you're still there, you're going to be able to answer this one too. The question from Joe is, can Comanche 250 wings be installed on a Comanche 180? And Joe, by the way, is an ANPIA as well as a pilot. He said, I think it's a minor alteration, not major. The main reason is the aux tanks are built in the wings of the 250.
Well, the answer is maybe, and it depends on the part number. The 1958, 59, and 60 airplanes, the only difference is firewall forward of the airframe, basically. You could that's why you can take change a 180 into a 250 with just or vice versa. As long as you use all the appropriate parts that's in the parts catalog, it's a logbook entry. However, there were never any 180s with electric flaps, so you can't put 250 flaps or 250 with Fowler flaps on any 180. It's non-conforming. You can't, no 180 had wing aux tanks. So technically you can't put any wing that has 4 internal tanks on a 180 because it's non-conforming. There is no data for that.
The 61 has manual flaps and 4 tanks.
Not a 180, it doesn't. Not a 180. A 180 does not, it never had any. Yes. Yeah. You're the 61, exactly right. It has manual flaps, but it has the four tanks, 250. Yeah. But that makes the 61 a different animal than the 58, 59, and 60. Clear as mud.
Yeah, you got to watch the serial numbers.
Yes. Yep.
So just to clarify, the answer is if it has the aux tanks in the wings, it cannot be installed in a 58, 59, or 60 180.
Any 180.
Any 180. No 180 all the way from 58 to 1964 when production of the 180 ceased. No 180 had either aux tanks or electric Fowler flaps.
Dang it.
So could you, but the Osborne tips, they're okay on a 180, right?
Yeah, but that's an STC.
Okay, just not Oxys.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's an STC. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is Murray Collette that CJ mentioned before. I have a 59-250 that was then upgraded with Osborne tanks and then later upgraded with aux tanks, changing the wing part number to a later model 250 part number that was acceptable, and that worked out okay. But I haven't investigated the 180, backing that down to the 180.
No, because it existed and certification data existed for the 250. That's how you got away with it. It doesn't exist for the 180 to require recertification of the wing.
So
yeah, correct.
So if you own a 62 to a 64 180, you can add the aux. No?
There is no 180 ever certified by the factory that had either Fowler flaps, electric flaps, or the aux tank. So that you would have to recertify the aircraft if you put any of those parts on a 180.
Obviously cost prohibitive. So the only way to get 90 gallons in a 180 is by the tip tanks.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yep.
Dang it.
Well, you can put a tank in the baggage compartment.
Well, yeah, it's the old
and again, the Osborne tip tanks are legal.
Oh,
STC'd.
Yeah, it's an STC, yeah. But that doesn't change the wing part.
Yeah, that doesn't change the wing part. It does change on some models the gross weight. So on an older 250.
Not on a 180.
Not on a 180.
Not on a 180.
I could imagine that would be
the 180 gross weight discussion has happened on the Facebook group.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the gross weight increase on the 250s is, it either goes from 28 to 3,000 or 29 to 3,000, depending on the year.
I just answered my own question. I said, who can sit in the airplane that long? And then I was thinking of Max Conrad.
Hey, I've flown.
Actually, Ron Kyle did a great session on long distance flying.
I've flown 8 hours, over 8 hours on 60 gallons in a 180. Nonstop.
When you're solo, a Gatorade bottle works perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Speak for yourself.
Well, we got a fun for you, CJ.
Yeah. Yep. I'll tell you, when I went out camping in the wintertime, I was cursing the guys. They had it so easy.
Okay, we got like about 5 minutes left. I'm going to unmute everybody and have at it.
Thanks, everybody. I'm going to go actually eat dinner. So
thank you very much, Zach.
Have a good day.
Talking with you.
Great. Thank you so much.
CJ, you should read. CJ, you should read about Blanche Stewart Scott, and she was the first woman to fly in the United States. Drove a car across the country.
Yeah.
For Willie's Overland, and she was a very inventive young woman. You should read her story about how she solved her problems.
Cool. I'll be texting you for the exact thing to look up for reading that. I'd love to.
Okay.
So,
That information.
yeah, if anybody has suggestions for future meetings like this, and you want to just throw them into the chat window or drop me an email, we will do our best to make them happen. Sky's the limit, literally. And then this is just, if you think you might be willing to, we don't have a way for you to do this right now, so this is not a request for money, but we started to figure out what it's going to take to run the corporate Zoom account and also store the videos so that they're available for everybody. And if you think you might be willing to toss a couple of shekels at that one, we're going to try to set up a way for people to contribute in the future. Totally optional. Just happy to have you here and spread the knowledge. So much appreciate Zach. And last week, Tom Wasser, the longest serving AME in the Northeast, and he's going to be coming back and bringing the regional flight surgeon with him in the future, probably in 3 or 4 weeks. So he's a real pilot advocate if you've got medical questions. But yeah, your suggestions are what we're working off of. This isn't like we've got any great ideas. We're just trying to make what you guys come up with real.
Okay, thanks. And thanks, everyone. Thanks for the info, CJ. And nice to see you, Dave.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, Hans.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yep.
CJ,
Somebody was, go
See you,
ahead.
Ron.
Take care,
CJ,
Dave.
this is Sam.
Hi, Sam.
Let's work on a mid-America fly-in that some of us Western people can afford to go to, not all the way to Michigan.
Okay, you got it. And Pete Morris and Ron and Lynn, Ron Wardson and Peter are fantastic experts, and I totally agree with you. Although with gas as it is, Sam, we might be able to go a little further.
Not in West Texas. We're not making no money now. So.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Part of what I liked about this format is right now with the lockdown, it's the cheapest way to go hang out with your other Comanche pilots, and
Exactly.
kind of appropriate.
Exactly.
Yep. And if
Have
we
a great
learn how to
night.
save a couple of shekels at the same time, what's not to like?
Exactly.
So yeah, Sam, message me or text me, and you and I and the Pete's and Ron and Lynn can get together and get something figured out.
Gotta work.
Yeah, you're welcome, everyone. Thanks for all the thank yous. That's really much appreciated by everybody.
Good night.
There were 9 of us on a call last night, just making sure that we had the process nailed down so it would go smoothly. So we're so appreciative of y'all for joining. So what's everybody's lowest prices? I was actually flight planning because I got to get the airplane over for annual, and I'm going to be stopping at a place that's $2.47 a gallon in New York.
That is cheap.
It's good. Can anybody beat that?
Down below Springfield, Missouri was 245 at, I think it's 4M1.
Oh, wow.
In New York,
That's
was that Sky Acres?
No, it's actually not Sky Acres.
Huh.
I think Kern, California was selling for like $1.50 a gallon.
Whoa.
Yeah, I saw that there was just a certain time limit, 4,000 gallon limit.
Yep.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, CJ Nashua, New
6,000
Hampshire.
gallons just to get there.
Yeah. What's Nashua at? Nashua, New
It's
Hampshire?
still 5 1/4.
Well, if you guys all really want to feel my pain, I'm currently based at Caleb, and it's $6 a gallon for 100 low lead. Still. But
So I looked on 100 LL the other day, and it doesn't really seem like the lower prices have hit Pennsylvania yet, and I don't understand why.
ouch. Yeah.
I mean, when oil is like negative per barrel, it seems like
I know. I was reading they're actually having to pay people to take the oil right now because the demand's so low that the stockpiles are full. Isn't that crazy?
It's back up to about $25 a barrel.
Oh, wow.
I got gas Sunday afternoon just northeast of Charlottesville, Virginia, and it was about 4.5 a gallon.
That's better.
It's about
near the
450 is about what it was in Concord.
Yeah. I had a discussion with the travel agent, and this is a little interesting. We talked about whether the small long-haul mission aircraft like the Comanche and its brethren, you know, the Bonanzas, the Moonies, might not have a place in the post-COVID era for people that still are not comfortable being around other people. And she thought that it might, because she said travels and tourism are way down. They're probably going to get support. And so there may be, strangely enough, there may be a place for a fleet of little airplanes being flown under Part 91 or 135, just to get people from A to B in their own social group. No.
Yeah, I think that's the key, CJ, in their own social group, because as an Angel Flight pilot in the Northeast, I'm very careful and backing off those missions. The missions themselves have dropped way off as elective as all stop. But it becomes a decision of, am I going to be exposed, or would I expose someone who is critically ill in the cockpit of the Comanche? And there's maybe ways to work it. I mean, the airflow through the Comanche is kind of very predictable in the air, but on the ground it's different. And how do you manage that is sort of the things I'm thinking with, while also being a first responder in my town and having to go into work every other day to meet with other people. So I'm probably the risk in the factor, so I don't want to expose anybody in the Angel Flight process.
Yeah, especially with the Angel Flights, the people that are riding are already involved. So they're lower risk. We are at that magic time, actually, people. It's
9 o'clock, yep. Just a quick note that I happened to glance over at my participants list at some point, and at that time there were 54 people, with some that had come and some that had gone already. So we had a pretty good size fly-in.
Yep.
Yeah, it's very good.
Thanks everyone for joining. There'll be another one next week, and we'll get a meeting invitation out a lot sooner this time, now that we've nailed down our process. So thanks for being here.
Hopefully this recording will be on the website, available maybe in a couple of days.
So we'll send a list out. We'll send a summary of this and the first one with links to the recordings, and we'll post them on Delphi and on Facebook.
Nicely done.
Thanks, everybody.
Very nicely done. Thank you.
Yeah, don't forget you can social distance at 5,000 and above just fine. Y'all take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, as host, I'm going to end the meeting. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, Pete.